Hello. Welcome to my channel. I am Chloethemua and this is my first video on this channel. And this is also my first True Crime Tuesday on this channel. Woo! Pew, 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 pew. Every Tuesday I'll be on here telling you guys a case that I've heard of or been suggested by maybe by one of you guys, and to discuss it in depth to understand the extreme that people go through to commit such heinous crimes and the impact that is made to themselves, to families, and to the wider audience. So let's get started. So to start off this series, our first true crime case goes back 100 years ago, and we are talking about the Papin sisters. The sisters in question is Christine and Leah Papin. They come from a family of 5. They have an older sister called Amelia, their father Gustave, and their mother Clemence. They all originate from the northwestern region of France in an area called Le Mans, and unfortunately they didn't get on a good start. Family life was not great for them. Before the girls were born, their parents Clemence and Gustave didn't really have a great marriage. There were rumours that Clemence was dealing with her boss in a very let's call it inappropriate way. But they're rumours. Whether they're true or not, Mr. Gustave, the father, the head of the house, decided to stay with his wife because he loves her. To start off a marriage on that foundation can be very unfortunate for some, which it was for this family. So they proceeded to have 3 children together, as I mentioned previously. But let me give you a quick lowdown on the experiences the girls had. So soon after Christine was born, Christine's mother sent her to her father's sister's place. So her aunt took her in and, raised her for a couple of years. I believe it was around 7 years. And the same was done to Leah, the youngest, the baby of the house. And she was sent to a brother's, I think like an uncle's house or something like that, for a couple of years also. During this time, the older sister, Amelia, was still with her parents and she was abused. Trigger warning, it includes sexual abuse as a child and physical abuse also. So she went through a lot herself, and to get away with that, when she became of age, she packed her stuff and she got the heck out of there, as she should. And she became a nun at the local nunnery. Christine was with her aunt for about 7 years, and then she came home and her mum dumped her at an orphanage. Her little sister Leah came to the same circumstances as well. What a tough beginning. Just imagine like the rejection from your mother. Your mum and dad is still alive and they dump you at an orphanage. That will already mentally mess with you. So not a great start for these girls. I believe they ended up at the same orphanage. They became really close. They've always been close, but from that point forward, they're pretty much inseparable. From an outsider looking in, they seemed very quiet, even pretty nearly non-verbal. You won't see them communicate much, to the point people thought they were like telepathic or something. They were just very in sync with each other. Some would say the closeness between them was borderline odd, but we'll go into that further as the story progresses. In 1926, Christine was 21 and Leah was 18, and they both landed a job together at a wealthy family home as maids, and the family were called the Lancelin family. It all goes downhill from here. Whilst they were working there for about 5 or 6 years, they kept to themselves. They did what they needed to do. The working conditions wasn't ideal. They were working about 14 hours a day, and I believe they'd barely got like a day or even a full day off work. So some can say they were overworked. The madam of the house, Leonie, she seemed to be very subtle with her abuse, but very persistent. So she wanted her house to be a particular way, which is okay, but when it comes to the point where maybe the maid didn't wash the dishes correctly, or put the blinds in a certain way, or lit the candles at the time that she wants, she will like go over and pinch them and poke them and prod them. As you can imagine, that can be very irritable. It doesn't disclose what happens next, but over time that could take a toll on someone. And when it comes to weak-minded people, it can go left or right, and it went extremely left. What happened next? Whew. Lord. February 2nd, 1933, which is 7 years from when they started, the man of the house, Rene Lancelin, was at a family gathering and was expecting his wife and his daughter to arrive at the event. Then after a couple hours, they weren't there. So he was just a bit concerned, like, they're supposed to be here, like, why aren't they here? He himself and his brother-in-law went over to his house to find out, where they are. And the gruesome sight that both of them found was absolutely unimaginable. Now, I don't advise to go and look at these graphic pictures, but they are out there, and it blew my mind of the amount of violence that was used. But let's explain what happened to cause the violence. On the day of the murders, the madam of the house, Leonie, and her daughter Genevieve were at the shops, and they were supposed to go directly to a family event from the shops. So the Papin sisters, who were back at the house, didn't really expect them to come back at all or even later that evening. So they continued to do their house chores as usual, like it was a regular day. So the sisters carried on to do their housework like a regular day. And previously, the house iron broke. So remember, this is hundreds of years ago. It's not like before, like now you can go Argos to get a new iron. So they took the iron to an iron repair shop. So on the day of the murders, they went to go and collect it because obviously it was due for collection. So when they brought the iron back, they tried to use the iron, plug it into the fuse, and it blew. Electric was gone, blackout. They decided, like, listen, I'm not an electrician, so we're going to wait till morning, and when the shop's open again, we'll go back to the shop and see if we can fix it. So they just left it because, you know, they didn't think it would be much of a big deal, as the family wasn't even supposed to come back until late that night. But as they continued their chores, and unexpectedly, Leonie and, what to call her, Giovanni, Genevieve, come back from their shopping trip. But they're like, you're not supposed to be here. So, you know, nervously, they went to go tell the Madame Leonie that there's no electricity right now because you plugged the iron into the fuse and it blew everything up. And yeah, so, you know, that's a deal right now. And Leonie lost her shit. She was like, she just went nuts. She went berserk because, like, what the hell are you actually doing, you know? You're supposed to have this house in order and it's not. And now my iron's broken, plus I ain't got no goddamn electricity. So that infuriated her. And while Leonie is screaming at Christine and Leah, the rage is building up. You can, like, envision how, like, fuming she was. Christine lost her flipping cars and she went off on one and she screamed, I'm gonna massacre all of them. And she knocks a pewter jug. And I don't know what the hell a pewter jug was. It's basically like it could be made out of either copper, lead, or silver. So pretty hard. Whacked her on her head. And her daughter, Genevieve, came in to, you know, protect her mother. So Christina is now attacking Leonie, fighting her, and her sister follows suit. And within the attack, Christine rips out Leonie's eyeballs. Let's just take a moment. She ripped out Leonie's eyeballs. I don't know how to, I didn't want to envision it. I saw the pictures and I don't want to see it again. Leah did the same to her daughter, Genevieve, ripped out her eyes as well, and literally just teared their faces apart. That being horrible in itself, they decided to go and start gathering other weapons, knives, hammers, very impactful objects, and start beating the living daylights out of these women. And there was no chance. I don't know what was going through their heads. I don't know what psychotic break they had. I'm not even giving excuses for them. But just to have that much anger in you to do such a thing is out of this world. They are beating them with the knives and the hammers. They pulled up their garments and started, like, slashing their thighs and their behinds. After they finished unaliving these women, they decided to relax. They said, okay, we're going to wait for the inevitable. And they locked all the doors in the house, put one candle up in their room, and went to their room and just waited there for the inevitable. So remember when I mentioned Mr. Lancelin was at a party and he was wondering where his wife and daughter was? Yes, during that whole time of, you know, wondering and asking people around, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen them? Have they come yet? Blah, blah, blah. All that was happening at the house. He started to get extremely worried and he asked his brother-in-law to come back to the house with them. They arrived at the house, but every door was locked. So they're going around trying to open the door. They can't open the door. And they're getting frustrated because they can see that candle in those girls' rooms. And so he's aware that they are in, but they're not opening the door. So he's getting proper frustrated, like, open the flipping door. Like, I know that you're in there. But he hasn't even seen the gruesome sight of his wife and daughter yet. So he's just frustrated and no one's come to the door to open the door for him. Himself and his brother-in-law were trying to get into this house for 2 whole hours. I mean, that's a hell of a long time before you call the police. And they got tired of it and they called the police, and the police finally came. Once they were in, obviously the house was pitch black because now it's nighttime, plus there's no electricity, and they find out there's no electricity in the house. And so they whip out their flashlights and they're looking to see what's going on. And the flashlight pans over to the bodies of his wife and his daughter. An image that a husband and a father can never get out of their mind, ever. So haunting to see your beloved family drenched in their own blood, and not even just that, beaten, unrecognizable. Beaten to an extent that you don't, obviously panic sets in, and they're running through the house and they go straight upstairs to the girl's room. The room is locked, and they manage to barge through the door, and they find the sisters laying in bed together, holding each other, wearing kimonos. And it's believed that holding each other was very impressionable in a very incestuous way. So a lot's going on there, let's just say that. And when the police enters the room, you know, they're like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? Christine says, yes, we did it. And they were arrested on the spot. Christine stated what happened, saying that the fuse blew and Madame got very upset, blah, blah, blah. Like, who cares? And she said that she acted out of self-defense. I mean, self-defense is, you know, doing this or protecting yourself to get away from the situation, not beating someone to death. Like, what? Did you honestly did you think about your, like, what were you talking about? Like, did you have you and your sister were in the room all this time and you guys weren't thinking what you were going to say? Like, you should just, like, said it how it was. No one's going to really understand as to why you did certain things. So just say it the best way you can. Self-defense is a lame excuse, and it will never be an excuse for actions like that. When they were imprisoned, the girls were separated before the trial. Christine was not having it. We don't hear too much about Leah's reaction. I'm sure she probably felt the same, but obviously they're very attached, maybe some more than others. But Christine was having really bad psychotic breaks, like crying consistently for her sister, and, you know, just making a scene just to express how much she wants her sister around her and with her through this process, I guess. They were both asked to make a statement, you know, whether it's to plead their case or whatnot. And Christine, again, she seems to be like the blabbermouth of the group, but Christine again decided to explain what she believed had happened. But I believe that this is like a French translation, so the translation doesn't sound accurate, but I'm just going to read it as it is. So Christine said in court, seeing that Madame Lancelin was going to rush at me, I flung myself in her face and tore her eyes out with my fingers. When I say that I flung myself at Madame Lancelin, that is wrong. I flung myself at Genevieve Lancelin and tore out her eyes. While this was going on, my sister Leah leapt at Madame Lancelin and tore her eyes out. From all that I've read so far, it just seems that Christine, I won't say controls Leah, but Leah's very impressionable, clearly, because I don't have any statements of what Leah said. I don't have, oh, Leah was angry and Leah tried. Nothing about Leah. It's all about Christine. So it only took a couple minutes for the verdict to come through, because, you know, you're pretty guilty, babes. Leah got 10 years of hard labour, and Christine got sentenced to death by the guillotine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's, you know, the big knife. You put your head on the ledge and you go. Why the difference? I'm not sure, but I think just from me telling the story, you can tell that there's a power dynamic. So maybe the jury felt as though Leah was pushed into it, so she shouldn't get as much time or as much punishment as her sister. 10 years is not enough. Life, lock her away, throw away the key. Christine did terribly in prison. She was so desperate to be with her sister. She stopped eating, she had psychotic breaks, she just wasn't having it. After a couple of years, her body wasn't having it either. It deteriorated. And May 18th, 1937, Christine died in prison. But on the other hand, Leah was released early for good behaviour of murder charges. What was happening in France in the 1930s, guys? Like, what the hell? But she was released early and she was banned from coming back to Le Mans, and she went to go live with her mother in another city in France. So, and there's no evidence of when she died. We don't know about that either. Let's dissect what's gone on here, okay? So two sisters with a very poor upbringing, who both got dumped on separate occasions at an orphanage, barely lived with their parents growing up because they didn't give a damn about them, grew a very strong bond, some may say incestuous, find a job together with not the best working conditions, borderline slavery. The madame of the house pinches you and is abusive verbally and physically towards you. There's never a reason to commit any sort of action of that type of violence, to have so much pent up anger. I'd rather pack my bags and do a runner to ever lay my hands and commit such a crime of violence towards someone, because now there's a husband out there, whether they're dead or alive now, and has lost everything. And I hope the French justice system has changed, though, because anyway, I hope this true crime case was very informative to you. I need you guys to stay safe. I need you guys to be vigilant. I need you guys to be kind to others, because I don't want anybody on anybody's radar for their madness. Okay, if you guys want me to talk about another case, or what do you want me to talk about next week, make sure you drop a comment or a suggestion down below, and then you'll see many more True Crime Tuesdays. See you soon. Love ya. Bye.